Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Happy Monday morning. I am Beth and I'm here to give you all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. We've got Erik Ten Hag speaking out for the first time since it being confirmed that he will remain as Manchester United manager. He has a lot to say. He's speaking about Rashford, speaking about Luke Shaw, speaking about a new contract, speaking about his relationship with INEOS, speaking about future jobs. There's some really interesting quotes to get into. Also a little quote on injuries, which might be a little hint as to Erik Ten Hag's feeling about some of the squad in terms of injuries and how we fix that going forward. Also got a little bit of transfer news coming out about Yoro as well from Lille. Interesting stuff there. Obviously, we're competing with Liverpool. Liverpool have put in a bid for Yoro. I'm going to talk about that and where that story could go for Manchester United and where we could go in terms of this week in transfers. How do we speed things up? Where's next for Branthwaite and who is next on our agenda? Going to be talking about that as well. But welcome everybody to the show. Thank you for joining me. It's been quite a while since I've been on the United Stand show. Had a really nice weekend, but I'm happy to be back with you all and happy to be talking Manchester United. So get all your comments in down below. Let's make it interactive and yeah, let's get cracking. Good for England to get the win, but first and foremost, can I just say, I know not everyone in here will be England fans, but I am an England fan and obviously Gareth Southgate is our manager, and I just want to quickly say, thank God INEOS didn't pursue Gareth Southgate as a manager because he was a managerial candidate. And thank God he had the Euros, or else he might have been Manchester United manager right now because they were keen on him. And what I can say about yesterday is, yeah, England won 1-0, but the tactics and the in-game management from Southgate, it's just so poor. It's just so poor. And Erik Ten Hag actually had a little bit to say on Southgate's tactics as well. He was coming out fighting, he was coming out swinging. Also name-dropped Tuchel as well, so we'll talk about that. Erik Ten Hag fighting. And what I can say is, since Erik Ten Hag won that FA Cup from City, he's had a lot of bite in terms of his confidence, his self-belief, and I want him to carry that into next season. He seems to have a lot of belief in himself as a manager. Some really kind of like bold quotes in here, and I thought, you know what, I absolutely love that, Erik. Back yourself, and yeah, I'm excited for next season to start already when it comes to Ten Hag. Things need to change, but I am excited. But anyway, thank you very much for getting involved. Hit a like on the video. Let's get into a couple of Erik Ten Hag quotes to get things kicked off. So he got asked about the manager situation. So basically, Erik Ten Hag was covering the England game as a pundit on Dutch television last night. I honestly was trying to sort a VPN out to watch it live because I thought that's definitely better than the coverage that I've got right now. You know, you've got a manager of Manchester United covering a game like that. It's really interesting to listen to. So I was trying to do that. I couldn't manage to, but I picked up some of the quotes from it. And Erik Ten Hag says that INEOS took their time. They are new into football. It is normal to reflect the season. It is not a secret that they talked to multiple candidates. So Erik Ten Hag was in the know that INEOS did speak to multiple candidates, and he said that they are new into football, which is why they were trying to make sure they did everything, came to the right decision and everything. And then he got asked, but how is it for you to hear that they were speaking to other managers? Because obviously, you know, if you're in a job and you're hearing through the grapevine that your boss, that you have a relationship with, is speaking to other people to replace you in your job, I mean, that's got to hurt, hasn't it? Like, it has to hurt. I mean, it would upset me if Goldbridge was going around trying to get somebody else on to do this with you guys on a Monday morning. It would upset me if I heard that through the grapevine. So Erik Ten Hag asked, like, how did that feel to you? And he said, it's interesting actually, he says, here in Holland, it is not done like this. In fact, it is not even allowed here. But in England, they have different rules and laws. So again, being very respectful to INEOS. He's not said anything about how he felt upset about it, or he's not said anything. He's not making any excuses for it, and he's not tried to play the victim in this sense. And Erik Ten Hag just doesn't seem to be that sort of character anyway. But what he is saying is, in Holland, which is obviously the country he's from, like, that's just not done, and he's not even allowed to be done like that, because so many people were saying it was disrespectful. But Erik Ten Hag understands the situation in England. He understands how English football works. I think he's more familiar now with the English media, and he understands how that works. And yeah, it can be really cutthroat at times over here, and it can be like that. And Erik Ten Hag has kind of understood that now, which, to be honest with you, I do think there should be more respect. I can't lie. Like, I do think there should be more respect. Erik Ten Hag hearing that there was multiple other candidates being spoken to, like that coming out through the media, it is a sign of disrespect, but I'm happy they've come to the conclusion to keep Eric. And I understand weighing up other options. I completely understand it. You know, came 8th in the league, our lowest ever position, and they weren't the best football. I understand exploring all your options, but just the way it played out so publicly, it was, and the longevity that it took while Eric Ten Hag was just kind of hanging, waiting there. That's the bit what I thought could have been handled a bit differently. But I think Eric Ten Hag really did handle them questions really well. I thought it was respectful to INEOS, who are obviously his bosses. You can tell Eric Ten Hag's really happy to continue working with them and happy to continue working at Manchester United, and he speaks on that a little bit in a second. I'll bring that up. But he's also very, very confident in himself and feels like he was confident all along that they'd come to the decision to keep him as the manager, whether he was like that internally. But that's the aura he's always given off. He's never given off an aura like, I'm just clinging on to a job I probably shouldn't deserve and I'm just trying to stay in it as long as possible. I'm not really qualified. You know them people where they're in a job and it's like, I don't know how the hell I've landed this job, but somehow I'm in it and I'll just try and hang on to it for as long as possible, but I don't really know what I'm doing. It's like, has anybody watched Catch Me If You Can, the film? And it's like, do you concur? Do you concur? Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's like, you just kind of playing everyone off and trying to act like you know what you're doing, but you're actually not. He's never given me them vibes. Like, he's always came across like he's super confident in himself. He knows how to make Manchester United what they should be again. He knows a long-term vision. He has a plan. He feels like he should be Manchester United manager. I mean, after the FA Cup final, he said, look, I think I'm still going to be Manchester United manager, but if I'm not, I'll go and win trophies somewhere else because that's what I've done throughout my whole career. He has that confidence and self-belief, which is exactly what you want from a manager, whether you guys have it or not, but that's exactly what he has, and you want your manager to have that. And on to the self-belief, this quote, and I saw it on Twitter and I thought, I literally just watched it and I literally laughed out loud because I was like, that is my manager. That is my manager. And he said, the club came to me while I was on holiday in Ibiza. They showed up on my doorstep and told me they wanted to continue with me. They told me that they spoke to Thomas Tuchel, but eventually they came to the conclusion that they already have the best manager. We still have to find an agreement for the new contract. This isn't easily done. We are going to have a talk about this. Again, speaking about a new contract, and Eric Ten Hag's not just going to roll over and accept anything INEOS gives them. He's going to obviously have to compromise a little bit on his contract. He's not going to have as much of a say on transfers as he used to have, and I'm sure INEOS will kind of whip up a contract that suits them and how they want their manager to operate, and Eric Ten Hag will probably go back and negotiate this, but they will come to an agreement on that. But the quote I absolutely loved in that is, Manchester United have told me that they spoke to Tuchel, but they eventually came to the conclusion that they already have the best manager. Slam dunk on Thomas Tuchel there. And honestly, Thomas Tuchel has won a Champions League and he's got a pretty decent reputation as a manager. Obviously, I didn't want him as Manchester United manager and he wasn't the manager that I wanted to bring in, but he's a well-established manager in Europe, and Eric Ten Hag's like, you know, they did speak to Thomas Tuchel, but they already have the best manager, so that's why I'm still going to be manager of Manchester United. I just love that aura, and I love that kind of self-belief and self-confidence, and the fact that he's saying publicly, you know, they showed up to Ibiza to say, we spoke to other managers, we spoke to Thomas Tuchel, but we have decided, INEOS have decided that we already have the best manager. I think, one, that's good from INEOS' side because it shows that INEOS have kind of thought this through and obviously they spent ages on their decision, and they've relayed the information to Ten Hag because it's come straight from the horse's mouth from Ten Hag that we actually have looked at all the other candidates and we have decided that you are the best candidate to continue as Manchester United manager. It was basically like Eric Ten Hag wasn't really Manchester United manager beforehand, and INEOS have came in and they're looking for a manager for the Manchester United job, and they've interviewed loads of candidates, and Eric Ten Hag's basically another interviewee. Like, he's another candidate that they were interviewing. Like, it was like they were interviewing Ten Hag, they were interviewing Tuchel, they were looking at McKenna, they were looking at De Zerbi, I think it was, and they also spoke to Thomas Frank as well. It was like they were looking at all these and they came to the conclusion, you know what, Eric Ten Hag is actually the best manager and candidate for this Manchester United job. And let's be honest, if we didn't have that absolute hellhole of a season we've just had, which obviously had the silver lining of the FA Cup, everybody would have been looking at them candidates and saying Ten Hag is the best manager for the job. You know, Pochettino was going backwards. De Zerbi's ended up at Marseille, as good as he potentially could be. I don't think he's ready yet for the United job. Thomas Tuchel is old news in my opinion. I think he's got a good record, but I just don't think he'd suit Manchester United. And then you look at Thomas Frank and you think, is he an upgrade on Ten Hag? No, he's not. So they came to the right decision. I don't want to keep going over this, but when Ten Hag was fresh out of Ajax, like, he was literally like the next best thing. Everyone was going on saying, you know, he could have replaced Pep Guardiola at City. And that's what people were saying. I'm not saying he could have, but that's what people were saying. United have had terrible problems. I mean, we've made some of the best talents and prospects in Europe come to this club and look average. We've killed managers' careers. Like, this club has chewed massive talent up and spat it back out. Like, Pogba came to Manchester United as, like, I still think Pogba had one of the potentials to be one of the best midfielders, like, ever. Genuinely, that's the potential he had. And his career just ended up kind of going like that when he came to Manchester United. There's so many players that have come here and kind of declined, and managers that have come here and not been able to hack it with really good reputation. So, you know, with the injury record, with the new ownership, with everything, I do think Ten Hag was the right decision. And it's good to see that INEOS kind of turned up and said that. United One says, let's see Erik Ten Hag slam dunk next season on the pitch. Exactly. You know what? He's like you guys say, he's talking the talk, but he needs to walk the walk. Like, I've never seen Erik Ten Hag be this kind of bullish. Like, he is coming out and he's being bullish with these quotes. He's oozing confidence. And it's like, he's speaking a lot for a guy that's just come 8th. And I'm a big Erik Ten Hag fan, so he has to follow this up going into the next season. And what I do actually have to say as well is, in order for him to do that, what Ten Hag didn't speak about, which I wish we did get some knowledge on, is transfers. We need to back him with transfers. It's absolutely vital that we back Erik Ten Hag with the right transfers, because we need to improve our starting 11, and other teams are not gonna lag behind. Other teams are already ahead of us and they're going to keep going as well. So we need to catch up, and every transfer this summer, has to be spot on as well because of the limited budget we're on. But we'll get into transfers a little bit more in a sec. We do have a little bit news on the centre-back stuff. Tracy Taylor says, morning Beth, you have read my mind about Southgate. There is a God. Erik Ten Hag in. Have a great week all. Tracy, I love that. But someone did message me last night saying, could you imagine, obviously, we keep Ten Hag, which everyone's obviously quite happy about. Not everyone, but most people are quite happy about. I can say everyone is happy we didn't get Southgate. I think I can speak for everyone and say that. But then if Ten Hag doesn't start the season well and we sack Erik Ten Hag in like November and bring Southgate in after the Euros, like, what would you do then? And I thought, don't even speak to me about that. I just recently watched the film Inside Out 2, and it was like, you know, the ones with all the feelings. And I'm not, you know what? Yes, I am a 23-year-old woman, and I did go to the cinema to watch a kids' film in Inside Out 2, and it was absolutely bloody brilliant, and I don't regret it. But there's a feeling, you know how it's all different feelings, like happy, sadness, and all that. There's a new feeling in the Inside Out 2 film, and it's called anxiety. And there's basically the whole message behind this film, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, is that anxiety is, you know, over, like, every single day, people think about hundreds of different scenarios that'll probably never end up happening. So it's just controlling them emotions and controlling the worrying. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to think about that film. I'm going to think about that film's message. I'm not going to think about Ten Hag getting sacked and Southgate potentially coming in next season. I'm not even going to think about it because it probably won't even happen. So don't even put it in my mind. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to waste energy on it. I'll cross that bridge if I get there. But the way Ten Hag's speaking, you'd like to think he's going to go into next season all guns blazing. Hopefully he'll have the transfers to back it up, and we'll be able to get back on track. And I think there's a lot to be excited for next season. You know, Europa League, I think that's a trophy that we can win. Erik Ten Hag's proven himself in cup competitions for Manchester United. You know, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. I think next on the agenda is the Europa League. There's no reason why we shouldn't be winning that next year. I know the Champions League was a disaster last season, but Europa League, it's still competitive, but we've got a lot more of a chance in that, and I think that's probably our level at the minute. So to get that trophy would be excellent, and obviously getting back into the Champions League spots and competing in the top 4 of the table, I think is the aim. I'm not naive enough to say we go into next season competing for the title, because we're absolutely miles off it. We've just come 8th. Our squad depth isn't good enough. We need a massive transfer window, and Ten Hag needs a bit more time. It's a project. It is a project. I'd say the season after next season, that's when I'd like to be competing up and around it. Next season is about getting ourselves back into that spot where we're competing in the top 4, and you know, if you can even compete for 3rd or 2nd, that'd be amazing. But I don't think, I'm not naive to say we should be competing for the title next season. There's just not a chance. And anyone who would expect that from Ten Hag is living in Delulu land. It's about this project and getting back on course on that project. And look at Arsenal, you know, since Arteta came in. Arteta's, I think, done a really good job, but they've got 1 FA Cup to show for it, and he's been in the job for how many years now? And yeah, they're competing for the title the last 2 years, but to get to that point, it took them a couple of years as well. I think it took them 3 years to even get to the point of competing for a title with City, and even then they ended up dropping off like the first time round, which was the season before last, it was a couple of months before the season ended, I'm sure it was. So yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we've got to be on track next season. We've got to be competing for trophies, Europa League being a big one of them. A European trophy would be brilliant for us. And obviously in the league as well. We've got to show some good football. It's about style of play as well. You know, trophies are brilliant to have, but we need to see some good football at Old Trafford because we lacked that last season. JPJ says, love the show. Beth, how was the Taylor Swift concert? Oh, don't even get me started. I nearly wore my Taylor Swift jumper into the studio today. It was absolutely, definitely cracked top 10 days of my life. It was unreal. Rob McCormack says, so he's taking a month off to do punditry work. Well, he's just been on holiday in Ibiza, and you know what? Fair play to him. I think he deserved that holiday, and doing a bit of punditry work. I mean, what's wrong with that? We've seen Thomas Frank on Sunday Night Football. We've seen other managers on Sunday Night Football. I think that's midway through a season as well. So I think you can tell that Ten Hag lives and breathes football. You can tell by the stuff he says, and also a really interesting quote from Tadic coming out as well that we'll get onto in a second. Tina XP says, who do you watch the movie with? A boyfriend? No, I didn't actually. I watched it with my brother, so wild Friday night for me. But thank you for all of the chats coming in. Lynn Hall says Ten Hag is the best manager for us right now, but has to show progress in the league this season and better performances generally. He expects some decent signings. Do you know what I can't wait for? Fixtures are out tomorrow. That'll give us a good indication of how our season could start. You know, them first few games of the season are going to be so vital for Ten Hag, especially considering the uncertainty over him in terms of, you know, the media and everything like that. Them first few games, they've got to go well, so can't wait to see them fixtures come out. But yeah, we spoke about the manager situation, Ten Hag speaking about that on the punditry panel for the England game last night, and this I thought was a really interesting one. Okay, so they were speaking to Tadic through the media as well, and obviously Ten Hag managed Tadic, I think, for 4 or 5 years, I think it was. He managed Tadic a lot. Dusan Tadic, he used to play for Southampton in the Premier League, and then obviously he went on to Ajax and played there for a long time. And Tadic said, Erik Ten Hag is the best manager I have ever had. His life is 24/7 football, 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 football. And Ten Hag said back, Dusan, good to see you. You always have decisive moments in games. And then he says, Dusan Tadic is one of the most professional football players I have ever worked with. I worked with him for 4 or 5 years, and in them 4 or 5 years, he was always fit. 0 games missed due to injury. So I found that very, very interesting. Out of everything he could say about Tadic, the one thing he says is a standout is he was a top professional, one of the most professional football players he's ever worked with, and he was always fit. 0 games missed due to injury. I mean, I might be reading into it, but is that a slight dig at the Manchester United squad, who Erik Ten Hag's had trouble after trouble after trouble with injury this season? And obviously, I'm not saying that everyone was faking injury, because that's not the case. I do think there was genuine injuries in there, and the majority of them would have been genuine. But I do think it was strange how all of a sudden a lot of people were back for the FA Cup final. In a tough season, I did think that was strange, and I think this is obviously a big reason as to why Erik Ten Hag absolutely loves Bruno Fernandes, and why he plays him all of the time, and why he's his captain. Because Bruno Fernandes has that same character as Tadic. He's always fit, he's always available, he's a professional athlete, a professional footballer, and he'll always give everything. And like I always say, if we had 11 Bruno Fernandeses on the pitch, Manchester United would be in a much better place, in my opinion. No matter what you can say about his ability, I think his ability is absolutely top tier. I know some people aren't a big fan of the way he plays football. I can't understand it. I think he's absolute quality. I think he's underrated. I can't wait to see his performance for Portugal. But that's obviously why Ten Hag rates Bruno so much. And I think it's interesting that he said, you know, the one thing that stood out for about Tadic was 0 games missed to injury. And I saw that as a little bit of a dig to, in a compromising season for him, some players, you know, probably maybe could have been fitter a little bit quicker and didn't turn up to the plate. And Ten Hag's never going to say that in the media about Manchester United, but I think that was a slight little hint then, to be honest with you. And also just Tadic saying, you know, all them people out there that, you know, because do you know what people do? I'll do it as well. So I'll hold my hands up. I'll hold my hands up, and I have done it as well in the past. You use certain things to fit your own narrative and to suit your own opinion. Like, that's what you do. Like, if I see something positive surrounding Ten Hag, I'll use it as an argument for Ten Hag because I like Ten Hag and I want Ten Hag to stay. I am quite balanced as well, and I do take into account a lot of things, I would say. I do, but I probably am a little bit more biased towards Ten Hag. So stuff about, you know, Tadic saying that he's the best manager he's ever had, I'm going to use that and say, well, people say he's a bad man manager. You've got a player he's worked with for 4 or 5 years saying he's the best manager he's ever had. But then people who aren't a fan of Ten Hag will constantly bring up, you know, the Ronaldo situation, the Sancho situation. We don't know what actually happened with Casemiro, but potentially the Casemiro situation. And people bring that up. So I'm going to just say back here, to everyone who's saying, you know, Ten Hag is a bad man manager, I don't think he is. I really don't. I think he's made mistakes. I think he has made mistakes. The one mistake I think he made was the Ronaldo situation. I'm going to be honest, I love Ronaldo, and I think Ronaldo's one of the most professional players we've ever seen play the game, and I don't know what went wrong there. So that's one thing I say Ten Hag handled. I don't think he handled that in the correct way. That's my own opinion. I'd say that to him. But that's just my opinion. That's the only one where I think he handled it wrong. The Sancho situation, he handled it absolutely right. There's no excuse for Sancho. The De Gea situation, as much as I do think it was a little bit disrespectful in the way he ended up leaving, I think it was the correct decision at the time. I'm sorry, I do. As good as a goalkeeper he was, Ten Hag wants to play out from the back and he wanted to get a new style of keeper in. De Gea was on 300 and odd grand a week and his contract was coming to an end. Like, I think it was the right decision. The Varane and Casemiro one, well, Varane and him ended up being absolutely fine because Varane played the final and, you know, he played the majority of the games for Ten Hag this season. So that was a situation that was fine. I think that was just a situation of Varane, you know, being frustrated about, you know, playing and winning. I don't think that anything ever was anything serious. And the Casemiro one, I'm sorry, you were absolute garbage all season. I know he's got a great reputation in football and he's one of the best centre defensive midfielders that I've ever seen, genuinely. What he's won is incredible. He's an incredible professional. And what he's done in his career is amazing. No one will ever take that away from him. And apparently he's got a brilliant attitude, a brilliant mentality, and he's obsessed with football and always kind of researching how to do better and everything like that. Casemiro's got a good reputation, but the fact of the matter is, sometimes, you know, players who have been at that top level and have played at that top level for so long, they can't come to terms with the fact that they are not firing the way that they used to. So Casemiro might not have been able to come to terms with the fact that he has had a terrible season. So when Ten Hag said, look, you're not going to play the FA Cup final, he obviously seen red, been really frustrated in this, and maybe not realised his performance were as poor as they were, and then was like, well, if you're not going to play me, I'm not playing. And if that's the case, I don't want someone like that around, no matter what the reputation is from the past. Casemiro deserved to be dropped for the cup final, and that's just the fact of the matter. I think majority of United fans would agree with that. Like, Amrabat had a brilliant performance and we won that game. A lot of the big reason of that was due to Amrabat's performance in the midfield. Casemiro had been terrible for months on end. And I didn't like the fact that then he just couldn't even be bothered to turn up for the bench. Like, I don't like that. So, all in all, when people say Ten Hag's a bad man manager, there's only one situation where I think he should have handled it better, and that's the Ronaldo one. All the others, I agree with him. He even said himself, he walked into a place where, like, let's be honest, Ten Hag said he walked into a mess. The realistic fact of the matter is, Ten Hag walked into a club where there was barely any discipline, player power had been rife for a long time. People weren't used to having a disciplinarian manager where he would set rules and have standards, and players have had to adjust to that. And guess what? The professionals at that team have no issue adjusting. Martinez, absolute professional. You know, he's played under Ten Hag. You saw him in the cup final lifting Erik Ten Hag in the air. He's a brilliant player. He clearly loves and respects Ten Hag. You can see that. Dalot has spoke highly about Ten Hag in interviews, saying sometimes when you kind of a player and a manager, they meet and they just like connect and they bring the best out in each other. And he said Ten Hag's brought the best out in him. Dalot, an absolute professional who apparently is one of the biggest professionals in the club. People see him as a future captain. He's got an amazing attitude. He's the hardest worker in training, a lot of people say. Bruno plays every game. Brilliant. Like, you can tell he's a professional. Ten Hag works really well with him. The professionals in that club don't have an issue with Ten Hag, in my opinion. Like, the ones that are really hungry to learn and do better. Garnacho, you know, Kobbie Mainoo. They've learned under Ten Hag, and you can see that the relationship with them is blossoming. I know they're younger players, but they're happy to be there. They're fighting for the badge. You've seen them after the whistle goes on the FA Cup final, and Ten Hag's got his arms around it. Dusan Tadic, who's been around the block and had a very long career, said it's the best manager he's ever worked with. So for everyone who says, you know, Ten Hag isn't a good man manager, I can come back to you with arguments as to why he is. I think a lot of it is to do with the players he's managing, and the players that have high standards, are willing to listen and respect the manager, work really hard and have a good attitude, I think they'll get along with Erik Ten Hag just fine. So that's what I can see from it, personally. Daniel Hickson says the team couldn't handle not being able to walk over the manager. The injuries were ridiculous. How could he do much with that? Winning the FA Cup shows he has knowledge. Just needs the squad. Savage says, bad man manager, give Sancho special VIP holidays and made Ronaldo captain in the ongoing drama. Erik Ten Hag did everything he could, but he's an employee of Manchester United first, not Ronaldo or Sancho. And Ibrahim Touré says, sell Sancho, Rashford, McTominay, Anthony Maguire, Casemiro, Lindelof, Eriksen, Shaw should all leave this club. De Word says, forget Branthwaite, get Gahey. Well, I am going to speak about that in a second. And Bolver says, subjected to Erik Ten Hag's stubbornness. Get your chats in, get your super chats in. We'll read them out as they come in. Thank you for everyone for getting interactive. Got some super chats here. Sam Brock says, players fall out with managers when they feel they aren't playing enough. CR7 didn't suit our squad or playing style. It was a lose-lose scenario. I mean, I'm excited to watch Ronaldo for Portugal, to be honest, because you remember he got benched for Portugal at the World Cup for a couple of games. I think he'll play in this tournament, and he's got an amazing goal record, so I'm excited to see Ronaldo in that. I think Ronaldo had super high standards, and I just think where he was at in his career didn't marry up to where Man United was at. And he couldn't get his head round where we were at. And he wanted everyone to be here now, and there was just so much work to be done. Ten Hag had to lay the foundations for that. Sambit Satapathy says João Neves or Nico Barea. Personally, for what this squad needs, I'd go with João Neves, but Brea is a great player. Thank you for your super chats. By the way, quickly, getting your, because we're going to come to this in a second, getting your comments about, if you watched the England game, Gahey last night, someone who's on Man United's radar, what do you think about him? I thought he had a brilliant performance. Also, any other Manchester United players you want to talk about? Eriksen obviously had a very, very good performance for Denmark. I still think he needs to go, personally. I think, you know, the Euros compared to the Premier League, it's different stages, different physicality, different teams, different setups. Also, you know, who's he competing with for the number 10 role at Denmark? You know, realistically, who's he competing for the number 10 role at United? It's Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount. Like, they're obviously the future of this club. So I still think Eriksen needs to go. But get your comments in about that. He had a great game though yesterday, and it was really good to see him bounce back like that after the hurdles he's had to go through. Obviously, considering what happened at the last tournament for him in terms of recovering from that and everything like that. So I'm very happy for Eriksen, but I still do think he needs to move on from United. Also, Ten Hag did mention, he said Luke Shaw will start playing once England get out of the groups. Luke Shaw was on the bench for England last night, but Ten Hag said he won't start playing until they get out of the groups, which I don't get why he'd be on the bench then if he still isn't ready. But yeah, the best thing would be I just hope Luke Shaw comes out of this Euros fit and healthy, because we need him for next season. We really do. We missed him a lot this season, so that's what I want. Also, Erik Ten Hag said Grealish and Rashford were both lacking this season, and when you are lacking, you are at risk of not being fit for your country. So, it says in the media that Rashford was lacking, which he was. It's honest, and also had a little bit of a analysis on Southgate's management, and Ten Hag said, you know, because obviously England, if you didn't watch that game, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people did, they scored. We looked really good in like the first 10-15 minutes. We scored. Bellingham, by the way, is insane. Bellingham shut a lot of people up yesterday that were just unnecessarily criticising him. Bellingham's insane. And he scored a great goal, and we were playing well. And then as soon as we take the lead, we sit back and allow Serbia to come on to us, and just boring football and poor tactics, in my opinion. And Ten Hag said, it's the vision of the manager, Southgate. England will take a 1-0 lead, and then Southgate decides to start gambling with making his team compact and relying on moments for the remaining minutes of the game. Interesting. So he basically said, which we all saw, we go 1-0 up, Southgate tried to be a bit more conservative, and then any moment we could get, like, we try and make the best out of it. But realistically, we just kind of were hoping to hold on to a 1-0, which is actually what was happening. And if that's what INEOS wanted to see at Manchester United, I mean, that's what you would have got. That's what you would have got. And I'm really glad that INEOS decided Ten Hag was the better option, because I did not want to see that. But the only thing I would say is Ten Hag has also done this before in games. And that's how he can see it as a manager. He's also done that with United, you know. He's tried to hold on sometimes, but he's also kind of adapted and changed. In certain games, he's tried to hold on and he's not worked. And then in other games, he's gone and tried to get the kill because he's learnt from that. So I think with Ten Hag, what he's done, though, is he's learnt from past mistakes, whereas Southgate just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. Like, that's why we lost to Italy in the Euros final, because we were trying to hold on. We didn't keep going for the kill. And Italy ended up beating us on penalties because they got a goal back and they ended up beating us. So it's like Southgate hasn't learnt from this before. You know, why are we trying to hold on to a 1-0 against Serbia, for God's sakes? Like, go and finish the game off, get a bit of confidence into the team in the opening game of the tournament. I mean, I'm happy we got the win, but Ten Hag's absolutely right in terms of what Southgate did. And people say, well, Ten Hag's done that before. He's tried to hold on to a 1-0 lead, or he's tried to hold on to a 1-goal lead. And yeah, at certain times when that's our best opportunity, he has done that. But also when that's not worked, he's adapted, he's learned, and he's changed things. And that's one thing I've noticed from Ten Hag, is I feel like he actually has adapted and learned a lot from the Premier League, especially since his first season. And in terms of, you know, some of the batterings we took off some of the big teams, I think we've learned on how to approach games like that, and Ten Hag's adapted his approach, whereas with Southgate, it just feels like he has this plan A, which is hold on, hold on, hold on, and that isn't going to work. That is not going to work on every single game, especially against better teams. Got some more super chats in. Make sure you hit a like on the video, by the way. Over 6,500 in the room. Thank you for joining me on this Monday morning. Sam Brock says, we need to be careful scouting players at the Euros. Gahey did okay, but it's Serbia and international football. Premier League is different, and he hasn't been mind-blowing. I agree that we have to be careful scouting players at the Euros, because I do think international football is different to Premier League football. I do think it's a completely different stage, different physicality, different team setups. You know, there's so much different about it. So I agree with that. But what I will say is Gahey, I don't think he did okay. I think he did brilliantly yesterday. I know it's only Serbia, but I genuinely do think he did brilliantly, especially considering, you know, that's his first proper important game for England on the big stage. Like, he didn't put a foot wrong. He stood out to me, actually, in the back four. I thought Gahey was really good. So I'm going to get onto that in a second. And he's also been very good for Palace. It's not just like he's just come onto the scene. Also with Gahey, like, what I liked about him, which I saw a lot of last night, is really just calm and composed on the ball under pressurising situations as well, which is nice to see. But we'll get onto the centre-back situation in a second. So Ten Hag also got asked about future jobs, and he said, because he got asked about potentially being the Dutch coach in the future, and he said, I've never been chasing anything. I'm very happy with where I am now and I want to make the most of it. So Ten Hag saying he's very happy at United, not thinking about the Dutch job in the future, and he wants to make the most of his managerial role at Manchester United and the time he has here. So you can tell, one thing you can say, you can tell Ten Hag loves the job, and apparently Ten Hag was absolutely buzzing when INEOS came to and disturbed his holiday in Ibiza and told him he was going to continue with the job. Like I've heard through very, very, very good sources that Ten Hag was over the moon with that. So I love that. You know, just how we want players who want to be here. We want managers who want to be here as well and have the best intentions of the club at heart. And the way he speaks to the fans, calling us the best fans in the world. And obviously I was at that final at Wembley, and Ten Hag for a while afterwards, when the media coverage has stopped, actually, I think. He was out with the trophy to the crowd, speaking to the United fans, the ones that were left in there, saying that we're the best fans in the world and the trophy was because of us. And I like that connection he has with the fans, and that's why the fans were so behind him. And I think that's a big reason why he still got a job, because of how vocal the fan base were in being behind this manager. So yeah, let's hope he takes that into next season. But anyway, let's get on to a little bit of transfer news. So let's talk about Yoro from Lille. I know Mark's discussed this, but I've not been on the show, and there's a little bit of new news in terms of Yoro, and it's coming from the Spanish outlet Mundo Deportivo, Spanish sports outlet, and it's coming from a Spanish outlet because obviously Yoro and Real Madrid have connections, and the most likely destination that's being reported at the moment is that Yoro will go to Madrid. He wants to go to Madrid, but Lille want to get a good price, and Madrid are being quite cautious about how much they're going to spend on this player. But also Liverpool and Manchester United both like this player and both want this player as well. So Liverpool have had a 42 million offer for Lenny Yoro rejected, is coming out from Mundo Deportivo just within the last hour. So Liverpool apparently have had a £42 million bid rejected for Yoro from Lille. And what I would say is on this, 42 million being rejected isn't a good sign for Manchester United. Because if Manchester United want to go for Yoro still, which I assume we do, and I'm going to be honest, I would love to get Yoro because I think he is an excellent talent that is probably going to be one of the best centre-backs to come in future years. Like, how developed he is at only 18 years old, and the potential he has is crazy. So would I like to get Yoro? Yes, I would. But I don't think we're in prime position to get him. First of all, Liverpool have Champions League football that they can offer. So they're a club that are competing for him. Second of all, the player wants to go to Real Madrid. And let's be honest, if Real Madrid want him, they'll get him. And I think Real Madrid will get him. But even if Real Madrid did bow out of the race, Liverpool have Champions League football to offer. But also, the player wants to go to Madrid. Like, the player wants to go there. So the player has a lot to say nowadays. Like, a lot of people say, you don't want a player that doesn't want you. And I don't think it's necessarily that Yoro probably doesn't want to come to Manchester United. I bet he would come to Manchester United. I bet he would. But it's just when Real Madrid come calling, that's obviously going to be your first priority. And you kind of get your heart set on it. Sadly, at the moment, I want Man United to get in a position where we can compete with Real Madrid. I would love that. We're a long way off it, but I would love that eventually because, even when United were at their very, very best, like Madrid was still, and then they came calling, most players would want to go. Like, look at Ronaldo. Like, when he was at United, we, won Champions League, won Premier League. When Madrid came in for him, he still wanted to go there. So they hold big weight in European football. But also, I think the big thing on this is, if it is true that Lille have rejected 42 million, I mean, I don't really want to be spending over 45 million on an 18-year-old centre-back from the French league. As good as I think he is, and I think he's got a brilliant potential, and I think, it'd be great to sign him, and I genuinely do think he's got the ability to go on and be a brilliant centre-back. And there's a reason why a lot of clubs are looking at him, and he's a huge prospect right now. But he's only 18. And he's been playing in the French league. Like, let's not over-egg the pudding on this. Like, let's get a realistic price, especially considering I think he only has a year left on his deal as well. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's why kind of Lilla kind of, you know, had to lower the price for him. So I don't really want to be spending any more than that on him. So if they're rejecting that already, then I don't know. I just don't see Man United being able to spend more than that, especially if we're going for Branthwaite, because first of all, look at Branthwaite. He's probably going to cost us, let's be honest, everyone, 55 million at least, I'd say. That's what we're going to end up paying for him, I reckon, when all the negotiating comes to a head. 55 million plus add-ons, I reckon we'll end up paying for Branthwaite. On another centre-back, I don't think we can afford over like 45. And we know Tadic's available for 40 as well. Yoro, I think, is probably a more promising prospect than Tadic, I would say. But Tadic's more ready now and he's a little bit cheaper as well. So, yeah. Savage says, imagine rejecting 42 million. We should stay away. Football is the game, says Beth. He locked up Watkins in the Europa. Not surprised. Not surprised, because I think Yoro is a really top talent. Do not get me wrong. But let me just double check this. I'm pretty sure he has a year left on his deal. Yoro contract. Let me just have a little look. Yeah, the 18-year-old defender will not sign a new contract ahead of his existing deal expiring in 2025, sparking an auction for his talents this summer. Exactly. And then it says underneath, Liverpool have 42 million bid rejected for Yoro. Like I said, obviously, if this player had a massively long contract, you know, at 18 years old and the talent he has, you'd be looking at probably around 60, 70, 80 million. Like, genuinely, considering what the market's like. Obviously, in Europe, it's a little bit less than that, than it is with the English Premier League. But you would be looking at a lot of money. But he only has a year left on his deal. So anything over like 45 million for me is a no. Like, as good as he is and as a big of a prospect he is, I just think let's not be silly about things here. Like, if you're paying that for him, like, then where do you expect your expectations to be elsewhere? And, you know, you look at Branthwaite. Branthwaite's got a contract. He's 21. He's got the English tax on him as well. He's a young centre-back. And I don't think we should be paying any more than 55 for Branthwaite either. So, yeah, I think it's important we negotiate the right fees and we pay the right prices for players. And I think if Liverpool are having 42 million rejected for Yoro, then that's not looking good in terms of where Manchester United fall into this race, because I don't think we could really afford to spend more than 45 on Yoro, and I don't think we're going to be able to win that race, especially with Liverpool. You know, Liverpool are clearly very, very, very into that race. They've got Champions League football to offer. The one thing I would say is first team football. You've got Van Dijk at Liverpool, you've got Konate. You know, Yoro isn't going to be starting straight away, so that's something to think about for him. And plus, also, you know, you've got Real Madrid. I think thing is, what you would say is if you're Yoro and it's between Liverpool or United, at United you're actually going to play. Like, you are going to play football. So that's probably more of a, you know, that's more of an attractive prospect because you want to play football at 18 years old. So yeah, it's exciting, the centre back situation. Get in the comments down below your thoughts. Luke Luckman says Tadic and Yoro over Branthwaite. I think we will end up getting Branthwaite, but the cost is going to be interesting. What I will say is I spoke to my friend who is an Everton fan the other day, and he literally just messaged me out of the blue. Pay up, because obviously he knows I'm a United fan and we've been into Branthwaite. He put pay up, and I put, you guys are mad asking for 80 million. I said, I think it'll happen for between 55 and 60 million. And he said, the longer it takes for you to make a decent offer, the more it will cost, because the shorter time we get to replace him. Also, there is rumours that Arsenal are going to bid 40 million for Onana, which puts less pressure on us to sell Branthwaite. And I said, but the players agreed personal terms and wants to come, so I suppose that does help us. I said, what price would you find fair? Obviously, he's an Everton fan. And he said, well, Carlisle have a 15% sell-on fee, which I didn't know. So Carlisle have a 15% sell-on fee on Branthwaite, which means, you know, Everton are going to be trying to squeeze even more money out of that because they've got to give some money to Carlisle. And he said, so in that case, I'd be very surprised if we accept anything less than 60 million. But then again, I've been surprised at our transfer business in the past. And I just said, I don't think we'll overpay this time. And he put, we will see, with like a, you know, one of them faces where it's like, you know, it's like awkward face. We will see, basically, because he knows United have a track record for overpaying in the past. But yeah, on Branthwaite, I think it'll happen for like 55 mil plus add-ons. I do think we'll get him. I think he's one that's sort of not nailed on, but I do think United will end up getting that deal done, unless Everton really do stick to the guns and don't come down in the price. Not like I don't think United will pay silly money, but I think Everton will end up buckling and coming down to around 55 to 60 million. I'm hoping. So I think Branthwaite will be coming into the club. It's just what right-sided centre-back will we be bringing in. And I think Yoro is obviously a massive talent that I'd love to get. I just don't see us being able to win that race in terms of money and also competition as well in the position that we're in. And also, let's be honest, Manchester United in terms of developing talents, we've not exactly been, got a great reputation for players coming in and doing well once they sign for United. Obviously, Kobbie Mainoo and Garnacho have done excellently as young players. Yeah, like Yoro only is 18, Garnacho's 19 and Mainoo's 18. So we do give young players a chance. If you're good enough, you're old enough and you will play. And Ten Hag is excellent with the youth as well, which is obviously another kind of pulling factor for Yoro. But in terms of players coming in from abroad on a transfer, in talents, we've not really developed them in the best way. Like, for example, you look at the Sanchos. I know Mount's only just come in. Obviously, he's not from abroad, he's from the Premier League. I know he's just come in, but he's a young player and he's not really got off to the races yet. There's been so many players that haven't really been able to hit the heights. Anthony, again, has not really been able to hit. So, but also, the younger players that have come through the academy have done really well. So you kind of just got to look at it from all angles if you're Yoro. If I'm Yoro, I'm thinking, United, I will play because look at the centre-back options they have right now. Look at Mainoo and Garnacho, like they're getting consistent game time and, I'm good enough to play, so I should get consistent game time. Ten Hag's good with the youth, it's a project. There's not so much pressure on me straight away coming in because, it's not as if we're competing at the top of the table. Like, we understand where we're at right now. We're trying to get back on track. And it's, the biggest club in the world. The only thing is you've got Real Madrid there who obviously, you're going to be winning Champions League, you're going to be winning La Ligas. Like, we're not at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. Niall King says, let's get the show to 1k likes and make sure you subscribe and share in your way out, people. Yeah, make sure you hit a like on the video, please. We've got over 6,500 in the room, so please hit a like on the video if you're here. Last but not least, I just wanted to quickly say, Mikel's just put in a chat saying we should go for Inacio instead, better player and most likely lower salary. Inacio, I don't know loads about him. I just know that obviously he's done really well for Sporting and he's a really hot prospect and he's definitely probably going to be lower in price than what Branthwaite would be. But I just think Branthwaite's got such a high ceiling. From what I've seen with Branthwaite at 21, like he does look good and he ticks that English quota that INEOS want. But Inacio, I'd have to do more research on him. I've just, 22 years old, a young prospect as well. God, he's younger than me, Inacio. Jesus, he's younger than me. Like, he's young and he's probably going to be on a, like you said, quite a low salary and someone that you could build up. So I think one thing I would say is there is options out there. So if for example, we get to a situation with Branthwaite and you're at loggerheads and United like, we're not paying more than 50 million. We're not. And Everton are like, we're not selling him for lower than 70. That's it. United will have to walk away. They'll have to. And if they walk away, you can say, it's not as if it's the be-all and end-all. We can say, all right, you want 70. We don't want to pay any more than 50. Look, Inacio from Sporting's 22. He's on a low salary. He's a really hot prospect. He's doing really well in Europe. And he's developed. He's playing European football. We're going to go and get him. We like Branthwaite. We think he's good, but he's not the be-all and end-all of our transfer window. We're going to go and get Inacio. And good luck on finding 70 mil. And hopefully maybe we can do some more business in the future. And that's just the way you'd go about it. So there is options out there, which is a really good thing. But, I mean, people talking about Inacio, left-sided centre-back, talking about left-sided centre-backs, Gahey for England quickly wanted to bring that in. So I know Gahey's predominantly right-footed, but he does play on the left side and he's comfortable on both feet. Gahey, obviously Crystal Palace centre-back, and Gahey's also pretty young as well. Let me just go and have a look at Gahey's age. And Mark's been speaking about this for months now. Gahey's 23 years old. So again, a young prospect who's doing brilliantly well for Palace and also was really, really good for England last night. And obviously I don't really take much much kind of, I don't really look at what Southgate's doing and think much of it, to be honest with you. But he's obviously gone with Gahey. He's got the nod over Branthwaite as that left-sided centre-back role for England. 23 years old, obviously does have a little bit more experience, to be fair. I still think it's the wrong decision not taking Branthwaite, a natural left footer who's played with Pickford all season. I think it's the wrong decision. But anyway, in terms of Gahey, he's on Manchester United's radar. We have been scouting him for a long time. There's other clubs scouting him as well in the Premier League. He's only 23. He's physical. He's brilliant on the ball. He's agile. His anticipation's great. You know, he just looks like the real deal in terms of potential. Palace want around 60 million for him, which has put Manchester United off because you don't want to be paying around 60 million. We want to pay a little bit less. But, you know, 60 million isn't absolutely detrimental. It's more than what you'd want to pay, but it's doable. And you could probably get it down to about 50 plus add-ons. So, Gahey, get in the comments down below. What do you think about him? And could that be an option? I'm going to be honest, if Manchester United did sign Gahey, I would be happy with that. I think he's a good player. I don't think it's one that I'd be like, yes, we've signed Gahey. That's it. Like, we're going to be amazing from now on. It's not that. But if we signed him, I'd be like, you know what, that's a solid signing. He's a really good prospect, a great age. You know, he's come through the Chelsea Academy as well, which Chelsea Academy has, you know, it's renowned for producing great talents, and they actually let him go, which is mad to me. But Gahey's, you know, he's got a great potential. He's got loads of good attributes. He's captain Palace, or is he the Palace captain as well? So he's obviously got them leadership qualities. I've seen him speak in an interview after England as well, and he seems to have a great character, great mentality, calm, cool, collected. Played really well last night. I know it's only just one game for England, so you don't want to get too carried away. But he's definitely someone to keep an eye on, so I'd keep an eye on that. So I think for left-sided centre-back, you're looking at Branthwaite, Gahey and Asio. For right-sided centre-back, you're looking at Yoro and Tadic at the moment. So who will United sign? Get in the comments. Get in the comments. Who would be your ideal two? I think it's most likely looking to be Branthwaite and Tadic, especially now Ten Hag's staying. One thing I would keep in mind is Ten Hag, you know, we had Romano on the show last week and he said Tadic is one that Ten Hag really likes, and if Ten Hag stays as manager, that's a likely deal to get done. Ten Hag is staying as manager, so I don't see how that deal won't happen now. So it's one to definitely keep an eye on. Inacio, Branthwaite, Gahey, Yoro, Tadic, right-sided, that's where we're looking at the moment. Get in the comments, what would you prefer, what would you want? I've just seen someone said the Gahey freeze meme. Have you seen it where he's like looking like that, and someone said this is what it does to a man when you have to play under Hodgson and Southgate at 22 years old. But yeah, Gahey's obviously, you know, the new manager at Palace is doing absolutely brilliantly well, and Gahey's obviously had the experience under him, and I think it's time for him to take the next level. And I know Liverpool have also been interested in Gahey as well, so Liverpool are also looking at a centre-back too. So yeah, get in the comments down below what you think. Hit a like on the video. Really do appreciate all the comments on today's show. It's been a great show, and it's been good to get involved with you guys. I've missed it here on the United Stand. I really have. I've missed speaking to you guys, even though it's not been that long. It's literally been a few days, but I miss you guys when I don't talk football with you for that long. But yeah, it's been great to get back into it. Make sure you stay tuned. That's football, by the way. The Euros watch-alongs continue. Every single game will be being covered on That's Football, and you will have the Goldbridge Arms, I think, is the place to be today at 2 o'clock for the first game, and obviously we'll have the 5 o'clock and the 8 p.m. as well as the day progresses. So make sure you go and tune into that a little bit later. We'll probably be back here for an afternoon show at 1 p.m. as well on the latest Manchester United news if anything comes out. So make sure you remember that. Usually it's a 2 p.m. show, 1 p.m. show today on the United Stand. Make sure you remember that as well. Have a lovely rest of your day, everyone. Really appreciate you tuning in. Get all your comments in down below. I'm excited for some transfer news this week. I'm excited to do some scouting missions in the Euros. Life is feeling pretty good. So thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.